Upfront was relatively new when, in Volume 21, Number 1 of the General Magazine, the first scenario of this innovative game turned up in the series replay section for the enjoyment of their readers. In this video, we will recreate that game that was played over 40 years ago for your enjoyment here on Legendary Tactics. This video has been brought to you by our sponsor, Noble Knight Games. If you like classic games like Upfront, Noble Knight Games is one of the best places to find it. They have one of the world's largest selection of games, and you can buy, sell, or trade new, rare, and even out-of-print board games, role-playing games, collectibles, miniatures, and war games like Upfront. You can pop by their location in Wisconsin, or take advantage of their worldwide shipping option. Please check out the link in the description and help out the channel at the same time.
By the way of introduction, Don Greenwood is the developer of Upfront, and Rex Martin was the main player tester during that development. Ken Weitzel won the Upfront tournament at Origins 83, which brought him round-trip airfare to Origins 84 in Dallas. So we are certainly blessed with plenty of expertise at all positions for this replay, and it should be instructive to those new to this unique game.
As usual, in this hand I start at a distinct disadvantage. Don and I have played this scenario so often in all its many versions during the playtest of Upfront that he is well aware that I favor a large fire base with which to play for a quick win. And occasionally, his concentration on that fire group frees my other 4-man element for a chance at winning by the victory conditions or on action points. Hence, his play of a marsh freezes my fire base, which I like to place entrenched on a hill for several turns, and effectively my maneuver group as well. In this scenario, I never move my secondary group without fire cover unless in desperate straits, a fact he well knows. I will therefore be forced to shift the firebase twice, utilizing the 2 movement cards I have. Worse, his firebase is in the best position possible. However, nothing will happen until my firebase is safely ensconced. Don is, if anything, an overly cautious card player, so I doubt that he will take advantage of this awkwardness with any untoward moves, and the range is a bit long for any effective fire. If anything, he will play defensively.
I will forego a general discourse on strategy, having waxed prolific on the subject elsewhere. Instead, I'll confine my comments to the situation at hand, as dictated by the cards in play. Generally, when playing this scenario with Rex, I've tended towards conservatism and prefer to play in a slug-it-out style, relying on the Americans' superior firepower from an 8 or 10-man group. However, as that tends to take longer, and I don't fancy recording this game through 3 decks, I'm going to opt for a more daring, mobile strategy, which the Americans are generally ill-suited for due to their low morale and lessened movement capability. Perhaps the surprise factor will buy me the few turns I need to get off to a good start. By setting up in 3 groups rather than 2, my maneuver group gets to begin as C and is just a movement card away from D, thereby increasing the range from the German firebase, B. An effective early attack or delaying terrain coupled with a generous supply of movement cards will enable me to start an end run, which could bring about an early conclusion. The initial deal has been most kind. I have not only a marsh card to hinder his fire and delay any reaction to my lateral movement, but I also have a hill for my fire base and a usable fire card to use from that hill. Now, if I only had 1 movement card, my starting hand would be excellent. Drat! Although he had no terrain to foil my plans, I filled my hand with what amounts to cower cards. Although the onboard position is excellent, I will start the game with no movement and a hand that is half worthless.
In Upfront, the initial setup is probably the most critical part of the game, since it is the only part that the player has complete control over. After the deal, Don seems to have received the better terrain. Starting a kill group on a hill with Rex's bogged in a marsh is almost an ideal situation. However, Rex has almost the perfect hand for this situation. His 2 movement cards along with the 2 concealment cards, which will allow him to move out of the marsh in relative safety.
I have no choice in the circumstances. Let's see how my luck, which Don claims is phenomenal, holds and opens with the lateral move of my firebase. Since I've nothing better to do with Group A, I'll simply entrench it. I clear a card from the deck and may even give it some protection. My discard is fairly obvious, I would expect, even to novices.
There's no point in firing now. He must play another movement card to get out of the marsh, at which point I will get to add 2 to my attack for his movement. Equally important, I need to discard 2 cards to get something valuable in my hand instead of all this junk.
The German player makes about the only move available. The American player, however, has an interesting decision to make. Should he fire now or wait for the enemy group in the marsh? If Don fires now, it would be a fire 2. Fire 1 card plus 1 hill plus 1 enemy moving minus 1 marsh. It would also use the only good card in an otherwise poor hand. However, using it might also lead the German to believe that there is more where that came from and persuade him to make that second move lateral. If he waits to fire, he can discard 2 cards, hoping to improve his hand and possibly generate more effective firepower later. If Rex moves forward, and this is the only fire card capable of being used, then the attack would be a fire 4. Fire 1 card plus 1 hill plus 2 enemy moving. Given the current condition of Don's hand, I agree with his decision to wait. However, if he had even a marginally better hand, I would say fire and hope to pin the enemy down in the marsh.
Since he has discarded, he is playing as cautiously as I expected, looking to fill himself a pad hand or merely searching for a worthwhile fire card. With the concealment cards and a find rally card now in my hand, there is no reason not to push my luck and dash forward in search of a terrain card. Group B moves into danger. However, I am loath to discard anything, even though this limits my chances of finding a terrain card. All of those in my hand have an excellent use to be put to at this stage of the game.
I would prefer to move rather than entrench, but I have no movement cards. My discards on turn 1 were replaced by more unusable garbage, so I would prefer to discard now, but I can't pass up the +3 shot on his group coming out of the marsh. With this hand, it may be my only chance to hurt him for quite a while.
The German player now has his own decision to make. Move forward or lateral. The -3 concealment card will negate the movement and terrain effects, so any attack would be resolved at the strength printed on the fire card or cards. The worst possible attack with a single card would be a fire 4/7. The best situation for Rex, of course, would be for Don not to have any fire cards. I would figure on an attack of strength 2. That would mean about a 2% chance of a KIA. Anything less isn't a problem since Rex holds a rally 5 card. So the decision is made to spring forward. Good move. Don then unleashes his fire attack. The fire 1 on Group B cannot kill and doesn't even pin anyone.
His fire is as ineffective as I expected, my concealment -3 card saving me from trouble. This range, even with his bar, is simply too great for the Americans to bother me much. I'll keep them up for another turn, discard the middling fair fire card as the most expendable in my hand, and seek terrain. In point of fact, this is not as risky as it may appear, given the concealment card and morale of the exposed targets. It is a chance worth the taking.
So much for my initial advantage. No move, no fire, I can only discard. I can't even afford to entrench, although, given my setup, that would be a poor choice anyways. I need some usable cards, especially movement cards, even though my original strategy has lost all its luster already.
Between his good concealment and rally cards, and Don's failure to show any potent fire last turn, it's not much of a chance that Rex is taking. He is relatively safe this turn. Don can do nothing but discard.
His third turn discard indicates that he is in poor shape, or else in a defensive stance. However, with that, the potential for a fire attack on me has just gone up dramatically. As much as I hate to do so, I've got to go to ground in the open. If broken on the next turn and unable to draw terrain to shelter in, and having used my concealment card to little effect other than offset the movement penalties, I could simply give this hand up as a bad deal. In other words, a bad draw at the end of my turn, no terrain and no concealment, and the potential exists for a deadly exchange of fire with my firebase on the losing end.
Nothing has changed with regard to my position. I have no usable cards. The fact that he has gone to ground in the open suggests fire coming my way this turn. And normally, I would attempt entrenchment while I can, if my hand weren't so worthless. I would entrench anyway if success could be guaranteed, but of course it can't. I'll merely discard again.
I agree with Rex. The longer he stays moving, the better chance Don has to do some serious damage. Unknown to Rex, however, Don's hand still looks like trash from the offensive standpoint.
God, so many discards. He must be getting a pat hand. I must draw some of the sting of that hill-based fire group, hence the desperate attack looking for a touch of luck. 2, it clears 2 cards from my hand, allowing me to retain the good cards I've got and still draw 2, which I consider to be the optimum draw for the German player with 2 mutually supporting groups. And luck does come my way with my attack pinning 2 of his men. His concealment is a wasted effort. This effectively ties them up for a turn while he rallies them, and prevents the dreaded entrenchment on the hilltop for 1 turn at least.
Played the concealed 1 to avoid possibility of KIA on his fire attack, as well as to draw another card, but he's still pinned 2 men. Although it comes later than I like, I might as well play the movement card as a lateral group transfer, because I need to play a rally on Group B anyways.
Now it's time for Rex to attack. The attack is a Fire 1. Fire 1 card, plus Fire 2 card, -1 hill, -1 concealment. Even though it's the same strength as Don's earlier attack, this one has a better chance of pinning someone due to the Americans' lower average morale. This chance comes out to be at about 8% per man, or overall at about 20% chance of pinning at least 1. The attack succeeds in pinning 2 men. In fact, Don goes ahead and moves Group C to try and spread the Germans out some. If the German follows, I would suggest moving 2 more men into Group A. That could really put Rex in a bind. Having 2 groups separated such that one group cannot effectively cover both could force the German to split up his fire group.
He's getting fancy now. By moving to outmaneuver me, he has placed me on the horns of a dilemma. If I simply ignore him, he may slip past to win on the victory conditions of the scenario. But do I risk the fire that might come by shifting to block his move? Do I sit tight and play for the terrain that allows me to close the range while he is thus occupied? Do I seek to maximize my defense and make him come to me? Actually, the more I consider the situation, I can perhaps turn this master stroke of his back on him by endangering his hilltop firebase. After all, I certainly won't be sacrificing good positions by moving. And if I'm to effectively threaten his hilltop group, I must move both mine. This forces him to make a decision with his upcoming fire. Which of my moving groups is the most proximate threat and the juiciest target? German Group A is a stalking horse, seeking to draw fire away from my Group B. That is the key to the strategy I'm now committed to. A short, violent firefight between our main groups at long range. I will be seeking an advantage which will lead to bringing maximum fire to bear. In other words, I need to flank his hilltop with my firebase. Unfortunately, I must use the flank move card in my hand to effect a lateral transfer for one of my groups, since I cannot sacrifice my forward movement card. A stream which hangs me up for more than a turn would put paid to all my calculations. I must trust to luck to find another flank movement card. By my count, there are more still available in the deck.
He follows my lateral transfer with 2 of his own. Too bad I have no fire cards to hamper or delay him, but maybe it upsets his plans. I could use yet another discard to rid myself of these high fire cards, which seem to be attracted to my hand, but dropping into the gully and entrenching on the hill are also important, especially with no movement cards in my hand. That's all I need, to find a stream with Group D.
Rex decided to move out and follow Don. One thing Rex did not mention: he had to move both groups out if he wanted to eventually flank with the German Group B. Since in order to flank an enemy group, you must have a group directly opposite the group you want to flank. I disagree with his decision to use the flank card. Any movement card has a 50% chance of being able to ford a stream, and there is a strong chance of drawing another ford card. A flank card can only be replaced by another flank card, and there is the possibility of not seeing one for a while. Don does all he can do in this situation, although I think that discarding would have been appropriate at this time. It's rare to see a hand so filled with trash as he has consistently been.
In short, I need the flank card. With one enemy group in the gully and the others entrenching, I think he is short of fire cards or he would have opened up on me last turn. So I go to the open to clear one card and rid myself of the movement penalty and discard the building to clear the other. I want to hang on to my other cards. My stalking horse remains up to entice any fire away from my firebase.
His squad leader and quality troops are in Group C now, so that's the obvious target for my sniper. I need to draw usable fire or delay cards now while he's in the open.
Rex needs that flank card now. Once he grounds his kill group, he will only be able to pass one card at a time through his hand unless he gets a good action card. Don's sniper succeeds in pinning Burnoff, a sure sign perhaps of better things to come.
Aha! Don continues to draw, and I've my flank card ready sooner than hoped for. Unfortunately, his damn sniper has picked off one man at the worst possible moment. I do not care to risk the loss of anyone in the group, and must rally anyway to pull my master stroke. But to entice any fire away from my critical group, I'm going to sacrifice Group A, hence a forward move with them, sending them to their death.
I would rather discard, but his move is too good to allow to pass, even though it brings me only one fresh card as a replacement.
Rex gets his flank card, rallies the pinned man, and moves the other group forward. Don has a choice. Fire 6, Fire 3 card, plus 1 heal, plus 2 enemy moving, or a Fire 4, same as above except enemy not moving. Don makes a good choice, hitting the intermediate threat. It works too, killing the ASL and pinning 2 others. Time to hope for a good draw.
Group A has served its purpose at the cost of my ASL, so they go to ground, stripping a cower card in the process, and becoming Group B as they complete their lateral transfer finally. And declaring the flank versus the American Hill position, Group C moves. Now, Don faces a definite choice. Does he abandon the hilltop yet, or hope for a few more turns of fire, seeking to kill off Group B and rid himself of the flank in that manner, or try to gain the plus 50% casualties for a win? If he moves, this will be a very close run hand. If he stays, I think I've the advantage. After all, I'll have the potential of placing some 18 firepower there. Even his benefits would not save him from impressive losses.
With no fire or movement cards, a discard is dictated. His flanking move on B is serious, but I have no movement cards with which to counter it. All I can do is discard and hope my sniper takes out the German LMG, while I hope to draw a movement card to get out of this flanked position.
Don has a bit of a problem. His kill group is flanked and he has no movement or fire cards. He has to start passing cards through his hand, even if it forces him to hold an action card back for a turn. Except, of course, an action that would remove the flank. Any fire card he gets should now be used on the bigger, more dangerous enemy fire group. If he manages to eliminate the smaller group, he would get an extra card in his hand, giving him 7 cards instead of 6. This is a relatively small improvement since he can only manage to use about 2 each turn anyway. More importantly, however, it would break the flank. But if he manages to get the German squad leader in the big group, the German player would have only a 4-card hand instead of 5. Not only is this a larger relative difference, but anyone who has played the Russians knows that a 4-card hand is frustrating to play. Therefore, I feel that any American fire opportunity should be used on the German kill group. One of Don's discards is a sniper, and it succeeds in again pinning a German in the German fire base.
Another sniper pins Wolf, but my usual luck has brought me a hero card at the most opportune moment. Unfortunately, I can't seem to find a piece of terrain, the cross I must bear in this hand. There seems to be one such in every hand. That's what makes the game so fascinating to me, dealing with the vagaries of the draw. So again, I go to the open, figuring to place smoke next turn unless I can hit him with a massive fire attack. At least I can reply with my own sniper, removing that threat for the remainder of this deck, and a 3-card draw may well bring me some firepower.
I'd like to sniper check his 0 sniper results, but with no move or fire cards, I must discard to maximize the card flow through my hand, especially with Group B in danger.
Rex again is forced to ground his troops. Now, if only Don had a fire card.
He's held his fire, and I've nothing to punish him with, so down goes the smoke. My brush is sacrificed for the hopes of massive fire cards. I've no plans on moving again for a while anyway. All I need to do is pray that Group B survives to allow me a few turns of flanking fire.
Should Group B move off the hill, with no terrain to move into, save a gully, which would leave me with no fire on his groups? Efficient play of cards says yes, but if I do, I lose my only source of fire against his pinned and exposed troops. I'll stay and trust to his smoke and my entrenchment and rally cards to protect me from his flanking fire, at least until I have a better terrain to move into.
Rex uses the smoke to provide himself with some protection, but more importantly, it passes another card out of his hand. This gives him a 2-card draw, hoping to get a large fire card. Should Dawn move off the hill? Even without terrain, I feel the answer is yes. Sitting and accepting a possibly lethal attack when something can be done to prevent it is depending too much on luck. With 18 firepower factors available for an attack, any single fire card can be used, with most 2-card combinations available too. I agree with moving Group D forward, but I would also move Group B sideways. Not as a lateral group transfer, just a card played sideways to remove the flank. I would also use the 2 cards, 2 more chances at improving a poor hand.
My play of the smoke seems to have lulled Don. He is apparently under the impression that the -3 is going to save his Group B from punishment. He's gambled that I've no fire cards. He lost. Unfortunately, my fire 8 is severely reduced, but manages to pin him to that killing ground on the hilltop as I expected. The breeze on the 3rd card could not have been better timed, bringing a KIA on his 4th man. My play is fairly straightforward now, given average luck on the draw. I'll be curious to see what he tries, especially with his good morale group moving out of their hole. I think I'll help them out to where I can get a shot by discarding my brush on them.
He kills 1 and pins 3 with a fire 8 despite my concealment, 1 due to a fortuitous breeze blowing his smoke away. Obviously I made the wrong decision and should have moved off the hill. No sense crying about it now. Let's hope he hasn't got another fire 8 card, because I have to sit and bear it while I rally Group B. As he has no shortage of targets, I might as well offer him 1 more. Accept his brush discard and move Group D forward so as to use a 2nd card out of my hand and to allow a 2-card refill draw.
That attack, a fire 4, fire 8 card, -1 hill, -1 entrenched, -1 concealment, -1 smoke. Had at least a 50% chance of killing 1 man, and a 50% chance of pinning at least 4 others. In addition to the KIA, Dawn, in moving his maneuver group, has bought time for his kill group. This places his squad leader in danger, though given the situation, there is little else he can do. He must rally his Group B, and by moving forward he expects to get both better cover for his maneuver group with his gully card and maximize his card draw.
An interesting choice I have here. Are 2 0 attacks, 1 from each of my groups, on his center group better than a single +2? That depends, I think, on what I'm looking for. A single +2 attack usually gives a middling chance of breaking a fair number of his troops. But if one is looking for routes, 2 0 attacks on an average group, as the American Group B is, raises the possibility of routing those low morale characters without him having the chance of rallying them. Of course, then there is his maneuver group. Group D breaks to the open to draw some fire. Timed with the rallying of his hilltop group, this is an excellent ploy. His sacrifice is accepted. My fire smacks his group moving from the brush and brings that to a halt. Equally important, the breaking of his SL forces him into terrain or to rally, and gives me yet another shot on them.
His fire 4 on D pins 3 men, including my squad leader, so I have to rally them or lose a card from my hand capacity. No wonder I can't fire, he has all the bullets. But how many more can he have? I feel I must use this opportunity to move off the hill and rid myself of his flanking fire while I still can, so I'll move off the hill now and save the gully for whichever group gets into trouble. How many bullets can he have?
Rex's attack on Group D is a fire 4. Fire 2 plus fire 2 plus 1 enemy moving -1 brush. This gives him a 35% chance of at least 1 KIA and a 50% chance of at least 2 pins. No kills and 3 pins can be considered above average. Because one of the pin men is his SL, Dawn rallies Group D. I totally disagree with this action. By leaving the group moving, Rex can fire at the group again in the next turn. If he uses the gully, Group D cannot be fired on the next turn and they will be rallied safely.
Well, he finally clears that flank, but my attention is now on the exposed SL. The massive firepower I can bring to bear demolishes any hope that he may have of using this group to win. His Group A can be discounted. Thus, I'm back to concentrating on his largest group.
Now, fire 6 on D pins 3 and kills 1. I'll use the gully to get Group D out of line of sight and drop Group B into brush. Too bad the buildings are not yet a valid terrain feature. Just my luck to run into a German squad guarding an ammo truck as my opponent. When is he going to run out of fire cards? I'll use my tremendous Fire 1 attack just to use Group A for something and increase my card draw. His Group C is the better target, as I need relief from his fire base, but my Group A is out of range of 1, so I'll have to settle for attacking his beat-up group as better than nothing.
Another attack. This time a Fire 6, Fire 4 card and Fire 2 card. +1 enemy moving, -1 brush. This has a 69% chance of at least 1 kill, and a 73% chance of at least 3 pins. The attack does succeed in killing 1 and pinning the rest. Dawn drops Group D into the gully, making them immune to any possibility of incoming fire, unless Rex moves a group onto a hill. He also fires into Group B, forcing the removal of 1 man due to panic.
His movement forward has brought him to grief, the death of 1 trooper and the breaking of his SL. With his other group cowering in the gully, I have nothing else to occupy me.
A Fire 2 on Group B pins the ASL. I'm not rallying Moors, as I feel the attack on his Group B is more important. My attack is too small to do much damage to his high morale firebase. I think I'm better off trying to eliminate the weak group and gain an extra card. If I can wipe out Group B now while they're more vulnerable, the extra card bonus may compensate for some of the damage done so far. The ASL will have to take his chances.
The two sides trade Fire 2 attacks, with each side killing 1 and pinning 1. Even though Dawn did succeed in removing 2 enemy Group B, the extra card isn't going to do him much good when most of his squad is pinned.
My stalking horse has continued to draw his attention. I think he has erred. He should divine that I've had no interest in them and have been dangling them before him in the hopes of gaining a couple of more turns of unimpeded fire. So, with 2 broken by my fire, I'll keep him there for a prime target by dropping wire on his group.
I lucked out in eliminating his Group B so fast, but I'd gladly trade that for him running out of ammunition. Used Concealment 1 on the Fire 1 on Group B, but he still pins 2 more. When is he going to run out of bullets? I finally have a decent fire card and can't use it for lack of even 4 firepower. I would rally 1 man in B or D, but that would reduce my card flow to 1. I must discard in hopes of drawing a big rally card, or at least a concealment or low fire card.
Rex has a Fire 1 attack. Fire 3 card, -1 brush, -1 concealment. 2 men pinned is slightly better than an average result for this attack. Dawn has a real problem. A handful of trash. A group in wire with 3 men pinned and a group in hiding in a gully. The group in the gully will be at least 3 turns from joining the action. Rally, move, terrain. Dawn does the best with what he has. He needs good cards and he needs them now.
I've got to play hard and fast now, with but 1 group to hold him off. Once again, I'll work his middle group over. At this point, I virtually can't help but hurt him. The wall goes in the hope of bringing me another large fire card, or even not so large.
And a Fire 5 kills 1 and pins 1. Is there no end to his fire cards? I must discard in search of a big rally card. Not that I have any other choices. If he keeps drawing fire cards, I have no chance.
Rex's Fire 5 attack. Fire 5 card, -1 brush, +1 wire. Yields average results in killing 1 and pinning 1. Dawn finally gets a Rally 4 card for his battered Group B. Things are not looking good for Dawn right now. He no longer has a group that is capable of winning by getting to range 4. He also lacks a fire group that can do any serious damage. Rex has him down, and with Dawn's hand it appears to be only a matter of time before Dawn is finished.
Well, all good things come to an end. but I've been hoping to get onto a hill. Now's my chance. With him in such a state, he will hardly trouble about my lateral shift. 2, I've one marsh and the others have gone by, likewise the streams, so I needn't fear his discard overly. Now a choice to be made. Do I discard that 5th building and give him the advantage of moving into buildings? Don invariably holds these buildings close.
Finally, he runs out of fire cards. Now I can get some movement cards to move into my buildings. This may not be over yet. I need a big break in the right cards, but it's still possible with my building cards. I can still recombine B and D into a decent fire base, if I get the movement cards I need.
Don finally gets the opportunity to rally his men, as Rex prepares to occupy a hill. If I were Don right now, I would move Group D backwards, then use lateral group transfer to recreate Group C. From there, I would use them to individual transfers to reinforce Group B. I realize I'm taking about 5 or 6 movement cards, but I can't see any logic behind sitting there and being chopped up by superior firepower.
Onto the hilltop with fire cards that I can use. No point in discarding. I've all I could ask for at this point given my strategy in this particular hand.
Oh, great. Onto a hill. If he has the kind of fire cards he's had in the past, I'm dead. This attack must do some damage to gain me some respite, and I must draw movement or fire cards.
I disagree with Rex here. I feel he should discard the marsh. With the fire cards he already has, he can almost guarantee that Don will not be using any movement cards. Don, meanwhile, is looking for a miracle. His Fire 1 attack, Fire 3 card, -1 hill, -1 concealment, yields nothing.
His fire is ineffectual, my concealment card serving the purpose that it was intended for. Now the heavy fire comes down like a hammer. The group in the gully is vulnerable. I'll flush him from there. I should be able to run him out of rally cards. The KIAs follow shortly thereafter. This is standard practice given the current situation. No finesse now, merely blood.
His Fire 4 attack pins all 3 of Group D. I must hope to get B to range 2 in a building and transfer men into it from Group D, all of which will require many move cards and a respite from his never-ending supply of fire cards.
Rex's Fire 4 attack, Fire 7 card, -2 gully, -2 concealment, +1 hill. Gives average results. I agree with Rex here. No finesse, just keep pounding. Don advances Group B in what appears to be an attempt to give Rex more targets than he can shoot.
His move of Group B is not enough to distract me from the damage I can do. Concentration on the SL will bring him grief, forcing him to rally him as often as I break him. Rally cards should be at a premium in his hand soon, and the other group, moving, draws a marsh for me.
My Concealment 2 on the Fire 6 saves Group D from yet another major attack. Although 2 men are pinned, I must reject the marsh and return to range Chit 1. Now, with pinned men, I can't even move into a building because I must maximize my card draw in search of a rally card, especially with my squad leader pinned and my hand capacity reduced.
Rex chooses a Fire 3 attack at Group D. Fire 6 card, +1 hill, -2 gully, -2 concealment, over a Fire 5 attack at Group B. Fire card 6, +1 hill, +1 enemy moving, -1 brush, -2 concealment. Not knowing what concealment Don would have, Rex would have been looking at either a Fire 5 on Group D or a Fire 7 on Group D. The possibility of 3 quick kills would have been enough to convince me to attack Group B. Rex only needs 3 KIAs or routes to win. Removal of either Group B or D would break the American, and the easiest way to do it would be with the largest fire attacks. Don is in bad shape. A bad draw at this point really hurts.
I simply wanted to rid my hand of these little fire cards, and may as well try my luck on the only viable group he has in play. I think at this point that I've the game won.
My last concealment card prevents losses from yet another attack. I need a rally card, no sense in moving without it at this stage, so it's discard time again.
Rex passes up a Fire 6, Fire 5 card, +1 hill, -1 brush, +1 enemy moving. On Group B. Why? At this stage, a kill is a kill is a kill. The only thing accomplished is that Don used his concealment card. Don can do nothing now but sit and watch.
I will hero a rifleman and hit someone hard. It matters not who I hit, so long as I gain a KIA every turn now, quickly bringing this game to an end. The fire, as luck would have it, takes out his most valuable man, the SL. Now at last, Don begins to show signs of disgust.
With that, I have no options left. My chances are between slim and none, and I've grown weary of being a target. I concede. In retrospect, I lost the game on turn 11, with my decision not to move out of the flanked position. In all honesty, however, I can't say that I would play it any differently were the same situation to occur again. I could just as easily have moved out of that flanked but strong defensive position and into a stream or a wire with no movement cards in reserve to get away. A pessimist might even say I lost the game in the opening setup when I deployed for a game of maneuver and then proceeded to get no movement cards. It was an unusual game of contrasts in that I received the perfect terrain for my opening strategy and then got nothing to back it up. Only one movement card in the first 10 crucial turns. By then, the mobile play having failed, I was at a firepower disadvantage, which was exaggerated by a never-ending supply of fire cards to my opponent's hand. Although my opponent had abysmal terrain for the most part, it made no difference because he received such a disproportionate amount of usable fire cards. But the unexpected is the name of the game and upfront, and that is the secret of its great appeal to me. I salute a capable opponent, regretting only that we had not recorded instead one of our more exciting games, which came down to the fall of a single card.
In conclusion, I refused to accept Don's sword. As Don has said, we've had some very close and enjoyable games. In contrast, this one is most mundane. If it serves to illustrate any precept, it might be that one must remain as flexible as possible in playing. The cards that come your way, the position on the board, the mood you're in, and innumerable other factors will influence your play. Upfront is a most unforgiving game. Victory may turn on a single minor mistake that is then magnified by the luck of the draw. For that reason, and the fact that the length of play is perfectly suited to my temperament, it is undoubtedly the best wargame I've yet enjoyed in my life.
In conclusion, I look at the results of this game and I feel uneasy. Don is usually a flexible and resourceful player. In this game, however, he seemed to be locked into a particular tactic. That, in and of itself, is not as bad if the cards are right, but that seemed to be the problem here. Don always got the wrong cards at the worst time. The only major mistake, I feel in retrospect, was his continued attention to German Group B, the smallest enemy group, from turns 9 to 15. With a better hand, he could have afforded that diversion. With a hand like he had, every card had to count. By continued firing on Group B, he did not get the most out of his cards, and therefore did not do too well. Luck was about the average here, with no particular attack being either very good or very bad. While one could evaluate the odds of getting the cards needed, I feel that one must work with the cards one has. That is the point of the game, and the player who does this best in all circumstances will win frequently. Here, Don did not, and Rex did. This was the margin of victory.